Okay,
right.
great. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. I will be speaking to someone I truly look upon as one of my mentors, someone who inspires me on a day-to-day basis, my colleague Dr. Hauk. So thanks for taking the time to sit down with me.
Oh, hey, I'm glad to do this. I'm a little nervous. This is kind of a new thing for me, but we'll see how we do.
You're well dressed.
Well, my wife suggested this blue tie goes well with the shirt.
Yes, no, you're looking good. And I decided to put on a blazer myself. So yeah, Alf, I want to start by asking you, how long have you been an ND, and what inspired you to pursue this profession?
Well, I graduated from OCNM, the old, which then eventually became CCNM, the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. It was at one time called the Ontario College of Naturopathic Medicine. Graduated in 1990, but I didn't really start practicing until 92, so we've just celebrated our 26th anniversary. So I created Holistic Healing Arts in February of 1992, and we've been in practice and growing ever since here in Brantford. Being a naturopathic doctor was always, sort of in the back of my mind. In the late 1960s, I did go to university for a while, did some pre-med, looked at some options, and then went in on a different path. And then in the 1980s, it became available for me to move to Ontario from Alberta, where I was raised, and go to the Canadian College, or the Ontario College. So it's always been part of my life. I've always been a patient of naturopathic medicine, so that's such an important piece, I think, of why I'm in here.
So I just got some direction that we're going to speak a bit louder.
Oh, I see. All right.
What are some of the most rewarding things that you do in what you do on a day-to-day basis as a naturopath?
That's hard. I mean, every day, you see wonderful people. I feel my focus as a naturopathic doctor is to help empower people. It's to help people, take charge of their life, put their owner's manual together, and move forward. And as much as I love doing hands-on things, I do adjustments, we do acupuncture, I do sports medicine. At the end of the day, where you're going to be in 5 years is not about what's being done to you. 80% of where you'll be in five years is what you're going to do for yourself. And as a naturopathic doctor, we have a terrific background and knowledge and education that I think allows us to coach and mentor and help people strategize and hopefully inspire people to do those things that they need to do to move their health in the right direction.
And I've always liked how you phrase owner's manual, because I think that really what that's doing is that's inspiring the individual to take charge of their own health. And I know you practice that, you preach that, you inspire your patients to do that as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. What do you see the role of naturopathic medicine is going to be for future healthcare?
I mean, in a perfect world, what I would see is that when people have questions and concerns, or something comes up that's an early stage process that's not positive and that's negative in terms of their health, they would want to see a naturopathic doctor first. We really are, in many ways, the gateway to the bridge towards moving to better health. And so, the key is to know what we can do and know what we can't do. Naturopathic doctors don't really focus on surgeries and crisis care interventions and so on. And at the end of the day, if that's what you need, then we are more than happy to refer you to that. But really, so many things can be stopped early on if you work with someone who's willing to take the time, get the information, dig deep for where the underlying causes are, what's causing your health problems. And to me, that would be a perfect world. And I think it's moving in that direction. And in spite of the miracle things that we can do in crisis care and, heart replacements and kidney work and so on, those are wonderful things that are the way we can deal with extreme pathology and extreme disease. But really, if we all double down and more people were aware of how important early stage naturopathic intervention would be to their health, it would be, I think, a much better world.
So that speaks obviously to the preventative approach, right?
I think at the end of the day, that is what it is. I mean, unfortunately, I'd say most patients, especially 20 years ago, but still now, come in because as a naturopathic doctor, they'll say, you're my last resort.
Yeah.
And really, in a perfect world, we should be their first resort. Mm-hmm. And then 90% of the time, or 95% of the time, we should be able to engage those folks in a way that allows them to move to a better state of health and prevent some of these serious pathologies from becoming a big part of their life. But unfortunately, yes, many people come in often at later stages. And the wonderful thing about naturopathic medicine and the wonderful thing about our ability to heal and the wonderful vitality that is inherent in us is that even at that stage, there's so much that naturopathic medicine can do. But no matter where you are, I think it's important to understand that it's always a team effort. You know, you work with other health professions that have their particular focus. But it's nice because I like naturopathic medicine because I think we're in many ways the, the generalist in a way, the overarching quarterback of the health team.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right, and I think in your years in practice as well, we're now seeing more patients coming in, being proactive. We're not always now necessarily the last resort, but they say, you know what, why don't you put me on a plan so that I can prevent type 2 diabetes or I can prevent cardiovascular ailments. So we are seeing that shift happening, and even with the newer, I think, generation of medical doctors, they seem to be more open in terms of at least having discussions with us, and as you're speaking of that integrative approach, right, to health.
In the long run, that has to happen, and I think it will. I mean, just as an example, you know, I look at myself. I'm going to be 67 this summer. You know, when I look at many of my peers, yeah, I know I look much older. I should have trimmed my beard. You know, when I look at many of my peers, many of people my age, you know, they're on anywhere from 3 to 5 prescription medications. They're on a handful of over-the-counter medications, and this is a terrific change from just a generation ago when my father would have been my age. You know, him and his peers were maybe on one medication. So we're becoming more medicated, but at the same time we're also seeing some increasing concerns with Alzheimer's at younger ages, you know, cancers at younger ages. So there's obviously a piece of the pie that really needs to be addressed, and I really think that naturopathic medicine has the answers to that.
You probably have now already touched upon some of the things in my next question, but I guess I can call you an elder now, right? Because you've been in practice for more than 25 years now. In your years in practice, Alf, what pieces of advice would you give to anyone who's wanting to improve their overall health?
Gosh, I mean, it basically, there's two things that I think come to mind. I mean, one is just the concepts of rudiments of good health. These are things that often don't get enough attention. The basics of, you know, you don't smoke, you walk regularly, eat your vegetables, you eat good food, you use alcohol in moderation or not at all. You are being just smart about these basics that everybody knows, and yet often we don't kind of double down on doing those things properly. So those are, to me, just fundamental. It's amazing how much of a difference just those basic rudiments of good health make to a person if we persevere long term. And the other piece of it is really where we're at in terms of our emotional state or you know, our spiritual and mental health. These are fundamentals. I read an interesting quote just the other day that said the closest thing you can to, you know, there's a lot of things you can't control about how your life is going to turn out. But one of the things you can control is the people you choose to engage with and have around you. And it went on to explain how, you know, you're choosing good people that really care for you, that are there for you. You don't need a lot of them, but you need a few of them. That is an absolutely vital piece of the puzzle, is being with good people, knowing how to, you know, ease people that are an aggravation to the spirit out of your life. You know, there's that I'm an old hippie from the late 1960s, but there was this old thing we had on everyone's wall, usually in black light paint of some kind. It was called the Desiderata. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And it's just a great little piece of inspirational poetry that I still read to this day, and I have it on my office wall at home. But it is about not just what you do in terms of the physical piece, but it's also in terms of the relationship piece and the spiritual piece and the emotional piece. It has to be done. You can't disconnect those things.
You've actually kind of answered my last question, but feel free to elaborate a bit more. My last question to you today was, how prevalent do you feel mental health concerns are in this day and age, and how it impacts overall health? And then how can naturopathic medicine help those who are dealing with chronic mental health concerns?
First, there's there's a terrific amount of things that naturopathic doctors can do for people that are wrestling with mental health issues. You know, we know the research tells us how important diet is, and it tells us about just the basics of how we put our owner's manual together in terms of our lifestyle. And many of these things are things that we want to start early in someone's life and their career. So there's no doubt about that. The other piece of the puzzle, though, is we need to get better at, you know, just treating people right, treating people the way we would like to be treated. And I'm not sure that this model that we have today, that everyone who has emotional and mental health issues should just automatically be medicated. It's not like people are running around with these effects or deficiencies. And so we need to maybe shift that paradigm a bit in terms of being proactive and looking at how do we engage with people. There's some very interesting and fascinating stories about cultures around the world that also have mental health issues that never get treated with medication. They're treated by the village and by the community in a way that's encompassing and loving and empowering to these folks. So there's a lot that we can do. And secondly, we live in a society, I think, where it's hard to really double down on creating your purposeful life. You know, we live in a world where today, I think you can, you know, years ago it took, 100 people to produce enough food and toys and roads for 100 people to live in. And now here in the Western world, it takes 50 people to produce enough roads and toys and food for everyone to live. So what are the other 50 going to do? We have to create, opportunities for a purposeful life. So it's a cultural thing, I think, as much as anything that we're seeing this shift in mental health problems, because it's very much a Western phenomena. I mean, it's everywhere, but it's really hugely impactful and a much bigger percentage in our Western world.
Yeah, no, those are excellent points.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know all the answers. I don't even know all the questions, but I do think that has to be an area that we have to shift, because I don't think it's going in the right direction. In my lifetime, I've seen the percentages keep climbing. The children in school. There's millions of preschool kids that are medicated. There's some real issues here that need to be addressed.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Alf. I think that's a good start. I mean, definitely we're going to be doing this in the future again, but I really appreciate that you took the time to at least, so people can know what you're up to. You've been doing this. I actually look at you as a pioneer in Brantford, someone who pioneered naturopathic medicine, and I know you've shared stories of how you started in such a small space and you would have patients sitting on a staircase while you were taking their case. So yeah. To see what you've achieved, it's remarkable. It's very inspiring, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for everyone who's watching.
Yes.